The very first competition wasn't part of the mainstream, what is known as the competition nowadays. It was an invitation-only one for what were considered elite 12-bell bands in the country.
We decided that we would invite teams. We'd put out some feelers, I think, and we decided that we would invite teams. We decided 5 was probably the maximum that we could reasonably handle in terms of the time that the bells would be available, the length of time we thought at that time judges could reasonably be expected to judge 12-bell ringing. And we invited the College Youths, the Cumberlands, Birmingham and Leicester. Leicester were strong in those days. And those 4 were invited. The Cumberlands, for some reason, decided they didn't want to come. Cumberlands were run by Dennis Beresford in those days, who was another strong character. He didn't see that it was something he wanted to do and couldn't see really the point of it, and they elected not to come.
I think there were 5 teams in it. I remember the Cumberlands opted not to compete because they didn't take part in demonstration ringing, or whatever the phrase was.
In the event, we then searched around a bit and decided that the next team in the list really would be Reading. And so Reading came in right from the very beginning, and the Cumberlands didn't.
The Hancock Trophy suddenly popped up, but it was a one-off. It was inviting people to come to compete for the Hancock Trophy at St Mary Redcliffe. And with the Leicester ringers, off we went. It was by invitation only.
It was like, if you like, an ordinary striking competition might be these days. The teams turned up sort of late morning, early afternoon. We did a ringers' tea whilst the judges were adjudicating and coming to their decisions. And then the results were given out in the church, I presume.
I was just 20 at the time. I'd been in Birmingham for a couple of years at college and got asked to ring in this contest. I'd been asked to ring in the Tewkesbury Shield, I think the first Tewkesbury Shield, a little bit before that, in the same year. And we didn't do very well there. So the expectations weren't that high. And our Birmingham team was not particularly strong, I recall.
Nobody dared think that we were good enough to win. And so, the nerves kicked in and all sorts of mistakes crept in because of those nerves.
We didn't do very well in the first competition. After all the build-up, we got to ring first, which is never a good place to be.
It just happened to be the year when I had the privilege of being Master of the College Youths. So it fell to me to organise and actually conduct the touch rung by the College Youths at Redcliffe back in '75, the very first one.
We had a method mistake very early in the first few sixes, and that got us off to a bad start from which we never really recovered. It's a pity because in many respects we should have done well on our own bells, and I think people were disappointed. Albert Tyler was particularly cross because he felt that we had concentrated more on the organisational aspect of the day than on the ringing. I don't think Albert entirely appreciated the amount of organisation that was necessary to bring the thing off.
Now, I know that I think I've been in all but one of them. Okay. And that one I spent in the churchyard on the beer. But
my recollection of that day was lots and lots of beer.
The Birmingham ringers did their own thing. They came on a coach and they brought beer with them in bottles, in crates. And they managed to persuade the vicar of St Mary Redcliffe to let them keep their crits of beer in the church to keep it cool.
I don't think I'd rung at Redcliffe before, and of course I was bowled over by that experience.
Birmingham didn't do very well. I mean, they didn't come last like we did, but they didn't sweep the board.
And then I think after the beer and the ringing, we probably had maybe some sandwiches or something and tea, and then we had the results.
We produced an enormous amount of food, I thought, and I organised it. The other Bristol ladies in those days helped. I remember making more cakes than I can remember, being helped by a nearly 2-year-old. And we put all this food out, and these people turned up, and afterwards I said, I have never seen so much food consumed so quickly by so many people.
We were very upset, of course, to come second, a position the college youths occupied many times since. And we had the pain of having to drive back to London, I recall, in Jim Pryor's car with Andrew Wildby in the back seat. Andrew had been a member of the winning Leicester band, although he was living in London. And he did not stop talking all the way back.